Okay, so I just finished reading through one of the most revealing royal books that's hitting shelves next week. And honestly, the details inside are absolutely jaw-dropping. You think you know what happened behind palace walls? Think again. A brand new explosive book called William and Catherine, the intimate inside story written by Russell Myers, who's the royal editor for the Daily Mirror, is about to completely change how we understand the drama between the royal family and the Sussexes. And let me tell you, what's revealed in this book is way more complicated than anything we've heard before. So stick around because I'm breaking down the absolute most shocking claims, and you're not going to believe where this all leads. Here's the thing that really gets me. For years, we've heard one side of the story, but this book finally gives us what reportedly happened behind closed palace doors, and it's creating a completely different picture of Princess Catherine's perspective on Harry and Meghan. According to the book, after that famous Oprah interview where Harry and Meghan discussed being trapped in the royal system and shared private family moments, things shifted dramatically inside the palace. The palace basically went into what they're calling a siege mentality, which honestly sounds absolutely intense. William and Catherine were reportedly deeply wounded by the accusations, and what they felt was a distorted presentation of their family's truth. William, apparently, was most frustrated by Harry's claims about feeling trapped in the system. But here's where it gets really interesting. Catherine's issue was something completely different and honestly, way more personal. According to the book, Catherine felt genuinely betrayed by Meghan's decision to disclose a private exchange, specifically about what happened with Princess Charlotte's flower girl dress before the 2018 wedding. This detail matters because it became the breaking point for how Catherine viewed her relationship with Meghan moving forward. The author claims that this wasn't just about a dress. It represented a breach of trust and privacy that Catherine couldn't move past. A source quoted in the book stated, and I'm paraphrasing here, that Catherine made it very clear that any future engagement with Harry or Meghan needed to be approached with extreme caution because they simply couldn't be trusted. Think about that for a second. Catherine, who's known for being gracious and diplomatic in public, apparently drew a hard line about trust. That's significant. Now, the flower girl dress situation itself is absolutely wild because Meghan actually addressed this in her Oprah interview, but her version of events was different from what other sources have claimed. In the Oprah interview, Meghan explained that Catherine was upset about something related to the dresses a few days before the wedding, and it reportedly made Meghan cry. Meghan said Catherine eventually apologized, brought flowers, sent a note taking accountability, and they moved past it. That sounds like adults having a conflict and resolving it maturely, right? But here's where the narrative splits other accounts, including one from Tom Bower's 2022 book called Revenge, paint a different picture entirely. According to Bower's reporting, it was actually Meghan who made Catherine cry by comparing one of her friends favorably to Princess Charlotte when discussing bridesmaids. So now we have two completely different accounts of the same situation. Catherine says she apologized and fixed it, but another book says it was actually Meghan who caused the tears. This is the kind of he said she said situation that's impossible to definitively prove, but it absolutely highlights why trust between these two became impossible. What's really interesting about this newest book, though, is that it reveals Catherine's thought process wasn't just about one incident. It was about a pattern. The book suggests that Catherine's inability to trust Meghan wasn't a sudden reaction, but rather a conclusion she reached after multiple interactions, and most significantly, after learning that private family matters were being discussed publicly. When you're part of a royal family, privacy is everything. The fact that Meghan disclosed private exchanges to a journalist or in an interview essentially confirmed, in Catherine's mind, that certain boundaries couldn't be maintained. And honestly, I kind of understand where she's coming from. If I shared something private with someone and then found out they'd talked about it to the world, I'd probably feel pretty hurt too. The palace's siege mentality that developed after the Oprah interview was apparently reinforced every single time Harry showed up, even for important family events like Queen Elizabeth's funeral. The book describes how Harry's presence at the funeral just kept those feelings fresh in everyone's minds. It's like every time he appeared, it reminded the family of the accusations and the public airing of private grievances. From Catherine's perspective, according to this book, the trust was broken, and she apparently made it clear that future interactions needed to be handled with real caution and care. What I find fascinating is that this book humanizes Catherine in a way we don't normally see. We usually see her as this perfectly composed, always gracious public figure, and that's true, but she's also someone who felt genuinely hurt and betrayed. She had boundaries, and those boundaries existed for real reasons, not because she's cold-hearted, but because her privacy and her family's privacy had been compromised. Now, I want to be really clear here. This book is written by Russell Myers, who has been covering royals for years, but these are reportedly insider accounts and claims from sources. We can't independently verify every single claim in the book, but what's interesting is that it paints a very human picture of the conflict. These aren't cartoon villains. They're real people who had conflicts, misunderstandings, and breaches of trust that apparently led to an irreparable breakdown in relationships. The book is being released February 26th, and honestly, I think it's going to spark even more conversation about what really happened between these families. The Oprah interview was absolutely massive when it aired, but this book is giving us the other side, or at least, another side of the story. It's the kind of reporting that makes you realize there's rarely one simple truth in these situations. Everyone involved probably has legitimate grievances, legitimate hurt, and legitimate explanations for their behavior. What I think is most revealing, though, is how Catherine drew her line in the sand regarding trust. She apparently decided that moving forward, any engagement with Harry and Meghan would need to be approached carefully. That's not a small thing. That's saying this relationship, at least from Catherine's perspective, fundamentally changed after certain events transpired. Whether you think Catherine was justified in feeling this way probably depends on your perspective. If you believe that royals should maintain absolute privacy and discretion, then Meghan's public disclosures might feel like a real betrayal. If you think it's important for members of the royal family to speak their truth publicly, even about difficult family matters, then you might view it differently. Both perspectives are valid, honestly. What's clear from this book is that from Catherine's viewpoint, the trust was broken, and she made decisions about boundaries based on that breach. The royal family is already dealing with so much: succession questions, public appearances, constant scrutiny, and adding family conflict on top of that just makes everything exponentially harder. This book, more than anything, reveals how deep and personal the hurt was for Catherine specifically, and how that hurt led to decisions about how she'd engage with Harry and Meghan moving forward. It's a reminder that even in the most public families, with the most official responsibilities, human emotions and hurt still matter. Catherine apparently felt deeply let down, and that matters. That feeling, according to this book, shaped how she approached these relationships going forward. What's particularly interesting to me is how this book contextualizes everything we thought we knew about the royal family's response to Megxit. Many people wondered why William seemed cold, or why Catherine appeared distant after the Oprah interview aired. But now, according to this reporting, we understand that Catherine felt something deeper than just disagreement. She felt personally violated by the disclosure of private moments. Russell Myers, the author, explains that Catherine's concerns weren't rooted in jealousy or control issues, but rather in a very legitimate concern about boundaries and trustworthiness. When you're marrying into an institution like the royal family, there are unspoken rules about discretion and loyalty that apparently matter enormously. Meghan, coming from an entertainment background, may not have fully understood just how sacred those boundaries were to the royal establishment. That's not necessarily a character flaw on either side. It's more about two different worlds colliding and not fully understanding each other's values. The book actually provides some insight into how William felt too, which adds another layer to this. According to Myers, William was primarily frustrated by Harry's claims about being trapped, which speaks to something different. William probably feels he made peace with the constraints of royal life, and hearing Harry articulate feeling trapped likely felt like a personal criticism of William's own choices and acceptance of the system. So here, we have Catherine hurt about privacy breaches, and William hurt about what he perceived as criticism of the institution itself. These are two different emotional wounds, which makes the family rift even more complex and difficult to repair. The significance of this book cannot be overstated because it offers context that the public simply didn't have before. For years, we've been debating who's right and who's wrong in this situation. But what this book reveals is that everyone involved had legitimate emotional responses to what they perceived as betrayals. Catherine wasn't being unreasonable when she expressed caution about trusting Harry and Meghan in the future. She was protecting herself and her family based on what she felt was a clear pattern of boundary violations. That's actually a pretty mature response, even if it's not the most charitable one. So whether you're Team Sussex or Team Wales, what's undeniable after reading about what's in this book is that the rift between these families runs incredibly deep, and it's rooted in real emotional hurt and breaches of trust that aren't going to be easily fixed. This isn't about petty drama or celebrity gossip. It's about fundamental differences in how these people view loyalty, privacy, and family responsibility. The book makes it clear that mending these bridges would require genuine understanding from all parties about where the other side is coming from. And right now, according to this reporting, that understanding simply doesn't exist. Whether it ever will is the real question. Okay, so I just finished reading through one of the most revealing royal books that's hitting shelves next week. And honestly, the details inside are absolutely jaw-dropping. You think you know what happened behind palace walls? Think again. A brand new explosive book called William and Catherine, The Intimate Inside Story, written by Russell Myers, who's the royal editor for the Daily Mirror, is about to completely change how we understand the drama between the royal family and the Sussexes. And let me tell you, what's revealed in this book is way more complicated than anything we've heard before. So stick around because I'm breaking down the absolute most shocking claim